Hello and a warm welcome to another episode. My guest today is Patrick Trümpi, former Chief Sales Officer at Lari, advisor and investor, and now Chief Sales Officer at Unique. Together we dig deep into sales qualification processes, and I learned what are the benefits if you use the same system also for expansion. So, welcome again and hello Patrick.
Hi Björn, happy to be here today and looking forward to our discussion.
Yeah, so it's you were on the top of my list when it comes to sales leaders in the DACH region, and today we will have a deep dive in qualification and sales process, and not just for new customers but also for the expansion part as well. So I'm super happy that we managed to find a common time slot together.
Same Björn, thanks for the kind words, and I'd say let's dive in.
All right. So when we discuss the sales process, so what's your, and I know it's a broad question, but let's start with this. So what is your definition of a sales process, and or how did you apply it at Unique at the moment?
There are actually several common methodologies how to craft a sales process, and I'm a fan of a combination or combinations. And so one of the things I realized is in the sales process, so you can either, define the steps that needs to take until the sales process is basically inherently the steps that you need to take to get to a contract signed, right? From prospecting to getting the contract signed. And you have, as a sales leader, you need to define the steps. Now, you can do it in several ways. You can, with transaction and more transactional sales, it also works with enterprise sales actually. If you manage to get through it, is define meeting types. So you say, look, the first meeting that usually happens is a discovery call. After the discovery call, we have a demo call. After the demo call, there's usually a workshop. And after the workshop, we have a proposal meeting where we show what we propose based on the results from the workshop. Then we have an economic buyer decision meeting. And then we have the negotiation and the contract signature in the end. So you can define it like this. But what helps more also for your sales team, I realized, is what are the decisions that need to happen in this process. So discovery meeting, what decisions need to be taken? I mean, a simple one, they both parties agree that there is use cases that are interesting to spend more time on, right? So they decide to look into a solution, surface, on the surface, not deep dive, but look on the surface on the solution. So that's the first one. After the demo, they both we need to agree that the solution and the challenge, they exist. The solution is a good solution so far from what we have seen for that challenge, and they want to progress now to the next step, basically. But you have to define the decisions that need to be taken over time. And sometimes it happens that decisions it does happen that companies are faster. Maybe I give you an example that happened once in the last month, that a customer was like, I know exactly what use case we have. We were able to get the business value in the first two meetings, discovery and demo. And so we decided not to do the workshop, because the goal of the workshop is to define the use cases we want to follow and the business case of that use case, like the business value from that. That's what we extract in the workshop, because normally the steps before, you have a vague idea and you have a lot of options what to follow, and customers get lost. But if you have a customer who's like, I know exactly what use case now is interesting, and the solution is fine, and then you can move on to you don't have to do the workshop, right, in this case, because the decision that needs to be taken in the workshop already happened.
May jump in. This is, I think, a good one. I'm a huge fan, and I'm getting more and more kind of addictive in really fine-tuning this kind of qualification process. But there's no need to over-engineer it, and or to have, if you have all the information already in one step further, like you were describing, we do not need a workshop, then it's fine, as soon as you have all the data and the quality of an in-depth understanding.
Exactly. And that's also the difficulty sometimes with the team. What I realized is meeting types is something very easy to coach people on. You know, you have a discovery. I train people how to do the discovery meeting. We have a demo meeting. I
Yeah.
train them exactly how to do the demo meeting. A workshop. I do mock-up workshops for 2 hours with my team so that they learn how to do workshops. And then, you know, so and so. I can easily, and for people, it's easy to remember. My sales team, now they know, okay, after the workshop, in the workshop actually, I have to propose that as a next step. I know, okay, next step is we look internally, we craft the business case, like the final business case that we got today, and we craft an offering that we think is most suitable to what we do in a first step and show you the roadmap that we can go, right? So they know exactly what to do. They can always suggest the clients this and this and that. And that really helps the sales team. The other way is a bit more difficult with the decisions, what decisions need to be taken. I feel like it's a bit more difficult, but I like the
Yeah.
combination of that they understand both.
But either way, I totally agree. So it has to be simple to follow, because if you, I call myself guilty in the past. So if you just defining them with, so this is the number of MQL, this is the stage SQL, and they're getting lost so easily. So what I'm doing is kind of what is the narrative? So what is either the decision, which is, yeah, some will get it. I'm a big fan of what is the core purpose of this meeting and what should you get out of it. So I'm a big fan of sugar. So also depends on the stage and the company, but for a pharma client, this works super well. First meeting, it's more kind of an intro meeting, is situation, urgency, and gap. So do we, and I think you describe it as, is it the solution offering what we could do in terms of expectation and offering? Is this a map? Is this a match? And I recently had the technical co-founder within the sales meeting, and he was super happy to have this early on to see whether the interests are aligned. So is this the expectation, the customer who is aiming for that solution? Do we have a proper chance to serve that, especially when you're still kind of an early stage startup? So this is, and everyone is getting it. So at the first step, either you call it meeting or stage, we have an understanding that there's somehow in kind of an urgency, so the necessity to act, and is that gap of customer expectation, is this fitting to our use cases?
Yes. Yeah, that's the purpose of the first, I think, 2 times that you meet. I mean, ideally, you understand it already in the first meeting when you get what the challenges are, or not like random challenges, whether the challenges you solve, they can solve as well. I mean, you know that as well, right? When you do outbound, Unique is 95% outbound. My life is 99% outbound. I think I got seven. Actually, that's true. I got seven personally. I mean, now I don't get the inbound leads anymore anyway, but I personally got like 7 inbound leads in my career. So mostly outbound.
Wow.
And in the first meeting, you have to you have to find a match quickly. If you get like 30 minutes, or in Switzerland, in Europe, it's easy to get an hour still. Then you can combine, but you have to find a match quickly on the challenge.
So when it comes to, so when you define the structure, and what are the key questions to be answered, and or how rigid are you in terms of this has to be documented in the CRM, without that you cannot go any further? How rigid are you?
I mean, I'm rigid on certain things, obviously, but honestly, not really in sales. I mean, Salesforce, I'm rigid on that the stage is right, that it's, we have like best case and commit in order to better predict what's in the forecast. And any kind of data, I don't, but I'm in a lucky position here because we use our own technology, right? And in our own technology, the technology shows how healthy the accounts are based on whether there was a contact in the last 15, 14 days, how many contacts there were in the last 30 days, Is there an economic buyer defined? Do we have a champion defined? And so on. So I have, based on our methodology, and we use some, you mentioned sugar, we use some version of Medic, not exactly Medic, but some version of it. I think yeah. I found out that, I mean, Medic and sugar, actually most of the methodologies they're always about pain, need, or problem, right? That's always one aspect of the
Yep.
methodology. The next one is the impact, that you know what happens if they don't solve it, that you have a business case, basically. So that's the second one. Almost every methodology has a business case. Almost
Yep.
every methodology stresses out to who you talk, like to have a champion, to have an economic buyer. Is that just a coach, influencer, whatever? So they stress out that you understand to who you talk. That's an important one. And the fourth one, I figured, is almost always there, is like timeline, process. You can
Exactly.
combine it to
Next steps and
how does the process fully look like until the decision. Maybe there is even a timeline there. Yes, in outbound sales, rarely there is a timeline. You have to build it with the customer. You have to uh, uncover the urgency. We both know creating is not possible, but uncovering urgency, and if you uncover it well, then they want to be fast. I mean, that's on you as a salesperson.
adding to that, what I learned is, because mutual action plan, I'm a firm believer of mutual action plans. And they come often more or less automatically if you have done everything else beforehand. So if you have this alignment, okay, we are a good fit for the solution. There is definitely some impact. This is clear. You will find people who are taking responsibility for legal, for the buying process, to get the budget, etc. But to really make it explicit is, for me, it was a true game changer. It is a lot for a lot of other clients and startups to really have this written on a piece. It's just one page, but this is super powerful.
Maybe I have a question here for you, Per. But what I struggled with, I mean, I do like the action plans as well, but what I struggled with for quite some time is, I mean, okay, at first you have to bring it in the right time, not too late, not too early is not possible either. If you have an
Yeah.
outbound sales process and you bring it in the demo, it's unlikely going to happen. Of course, you can test your champion if that's already a champion, but in a sales motion, you might not. You might have to do discovery demo a few times. That's obviously what's in an enterprise motion is important. You can't. Very often it's not discovery demo workshop. It's often discovery demo, that discovery, and so on. So you have several times that, and you have to find the right time to bring it in. I think probably the best time is if you find a champion, a real champion, and you feel confident to go in with a mutual action plan. But the struggle that I saw is that, because you have to kind of do it with the champion, but the thing is, especially in the paper process afterwards, where legal is involved, compliance involved, where security is involved, we have actually 5 departments that are involved in the paper process, and neither I nor the champion, we can hold these people really accountable to go for a certain time. At least that was my struggle. So I had a mutual action plan with my champion, but then we planned, okay, in 2 weeks we get the answer from legal. It took us 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, because they have other stuff to do. So that's something, maybe you have actually a solution to that, but that's something I struggled with, how to hold other people accountable that, the timeline is connected to.
So you are not alone. So I hear it quite often, especially if you just do it with the champion. So that's why I like to have all stakeholders, and of course it depends on product and situation. But for example, I have one client who is trying to scope every stakeholder, even kind of legal, and get them invited for, we call it the solution validation stage or meeting. And there we loop in all people which will be part of the process. And we say, okay, we just need you 5 minutes to just say hello, and if you would like to stay, you're welcome to stay. But then it's not just the champion who is asking around, so you have already identified them, you ideally know them, and then it's at least it's not a safe thing, but it helps that it's at least one attempt to tackle that.
Yes, but other than that, it's a good means to have a bit more control in the sales cycle. Yeah, it's a project management job when it comes to that.
And the other thing I like a lot is kind of to, again, if you have kind of not just the champion as stakeholder, that you try to map out the mutual action plan, because at the very end it's always the same, more or less. It's kind of who's signing off the final contract, so who's providing the budget, who's signing, is there legal to be involved, what is about a procurement, and maybe some paperwork which is partly combined. So we map out this as these are the 4-5 main steps, and then we are asking around and say, okay, we believe that we are the perfect fit, everything is done already, kind of, so who's doing what until when? And it sounds silly and simple, but you will get the instant feedback if something is kind of blocking and or the champion is not as strong as you know. On the flip side, it's so powerful, because I had recently one client, he and all stakeholders say, okay, yeah, I can do that, and then it was kind of, that was smooth, and it was so fun.
So talking about sales process methodology, I think what we discussed before, what's important is that when the first deal is signed, I mean, very often there's especially in our case or in a startup case, you have high upside potential. You tend to sell lower price deals and have a huge upside potential. So how do you do that after the signature?
Okay, so after the initial sales, you mean? So how do you optimize onboarding success? Okay.
Let's dive into this. I mean, I've never seen a customer success organization that can sell. I think we both haven't, or that is specialized in continuing to sell. You said something interesting before, Björn. They are inherently different in what they need to achieve, I guess, maybe.
Yep. And I would double down on that, because for me, there are two entirely different roles, and it's absolutely fine. So one thing is to have the customer-facing perspective, to please the customer, to have a great onboarding experience, to make sure that the product is used correctly, that you find all the little tweaks to facilitate or continue the process you identified in the sales process. So this is kind of a super great skill. And I had one customer success manager, I asked him back then and said, okay, now I would like to go more into expansion or growth. And he said, as soon as we have to talk about money, I'm out, because I want to remain the good guy. And he was a great guy for the first part. So I would strongly recommend to split these roles as fast as possible, to really have these mentalities represented.
I agree, yes. I think so. And I would, based on the experience I had, I would farmer salespeople, let's call them, or in our environment, when it's about huge upside deals, it's also still kind of a hunter role. It's a bit of a mix, actually. That's why in our case, by the way, so after the initial sell, 75 to 150K per year, we keep salespeople in the deal for a year, and they get commission for that first year to get as quickly as possible an upsell done to like 500,000 or something. That's the minimum potential we see. So we keep them incentivized, and
How do you make sure that the customer success is still in charge and that sales is not bothering them too much or interfering with the customer?
Usually you have quite naturally, so the customer success or the project manager, customer success. I mean, there are different roles in a customer success role, but let's call like the person who takes over the project. Usually in the first 3 to 6 months, It's anyway, by design, the customer success manager who will lead that project, basically. But they also, as any project manager, they are the leaders in these first 6 months. And they have to bring in salespeople, like project managers do, especially for the communication to the C-level or the economic buyer. Because usually project managers or customer success people, they get lost in their nitty-gritty of the daily job, like in the operational job. They only communicate with their equals, like the other project managers from their side. They always forget to connect to the economic buyer from time to time, see, hey, look, we are achieving the results. How is it look? Does it look like? Do we get the business case? Can we realize the business case? And is the money for next year safe? And you have to do it immediately, basically. So the salesperson
Absolutely.
makes sure from day one that they are going to be in the budget for next year, because for 500,000 you have to be in the budget. You have to go through the normal budget process, and that's salespeople know
Yeah.
that process. Project managers don't necessarily know. So most of the time it's like a level
So,
below and above the line. The customer success person is usually below the line, salesperson above the line, and that's where the communication is also flowing.
okay, do you then, practically speaking, do you have then customer impact calls together with sales and customer success on a quarterly basis, or how do you manage this?
Yes, we do. We also have, I mean, we have an additional one. We have executive sponsorship at Unique because we have a few very, very important customers that we want to upsell. So we have a salesperson in there who is managing the whole, also paper stuff, who is managing the mostly the above the line communication, but the executive sponsor is also keeping the connection on the same level. And then we have the project manager. We have a weekly update meeting on this, actually, because they are quite
Okay,
important for us. So we have weekly
all
update
right.
meetings
So
in
that,
every of these top 10 accounts, PICT, LGT, Suica, all the important Mobiliar and clients we have in Switzerland. So we have, yeah, that's how we keep, and the project manager is leading this meeting, giving an update on their side, what is going on. I mean, everybody is giving an update on their side and what has to be done.
and then closing the loop to the sales process. I would assume that you, when it comes then as kind of creating upsell, cross-sell, renewal opportunities, you're following the same methodology.
Yes. And that is probably the biggest reason why the upselling, like the farmer salespeople, also are most of the time part of the sales organizations. I have seen it differently, but it didn't really work, and it has been changed quickly again that they are part of the sales organization, so that the whole organization is using the same methodology with the customers. Because then if you have a handover between a hunter salesperson to the farmer salesperson and to the customer success manager, everybody speaks the same language. So you can say, look, economic buyer, that person, champion, that person, this and this and this are the reasons. The metric, the business case is this. The pain is this. The decision process was like that. That's exactly how you can think, and probably ideally you also know the decision process already for the big project. I mean, I usually know
Yeah,
that they tell us they
absolutely.
don't
Yeah.
buy if they can't buy the big thing. Nobody's driving Lamborghini maybe for fun for one day, but nobody's really testing these fancy cars if you wouldn't be able to buy them. I mean, okay, for people who are fun, they might do, but buying is a bit different, I guess, in here. So you don't really test it. So they already know. They always want to know what's his cost afterwards, and then you can also figure out how this process looks like. So yeah, you speak the same language. Very important. Handovers very easy and clear.
So because post-purchase development is I think more than ever, I think it's one of the most, not just trendy, but most important topics. And I really like that you are using the same system, that everyone is speaking the same language, whether it's a new client or kind of an existing client. So yeah, I think this is the perfect closing remark. Is there anything else to add bearing in mind that that was already super valuable and insightful, Patrick.
Yeah, now last thing about methodologies, right? You have to find the right methodology for your business. We mentioned a few, like the four important ones that we mentioned. They're always in there. Always choose those four. You always need them. Pain, impact, persona, and the process. That's the probably what is required. In Medic, there's also competition, for instance. We don't use it because in the market we are at the moment, we don't really have competition. So it's not a big factor for us. We don't need to ask in the first meeting, hey, who else are you looking at? Because they can't look at anybody else at the moment. It's not really an option. So we took this out. But maybe this is important for you and for many, right? So choose the variables that you need for your business and really train everybody with that. And then you have good handovers from SDR to upselling.
Great. What a closing remark. I'm still hesitant to add something because competition is for me another kind of learning is if you define it as alternatives, depending on what kind of product and service you're selling, then it's super insightful about what are the options? Is it an internal solution? Is it a kind of mixing different tools together? Stay with direct competition, indirect competition. So there is, even if you left it for a good reason, competition can be explored in multiple ways. So this would be my humble add-on. Yeah. All right. So Patrick, thanks so much. It was a short while and always a pleasure having you around. And
same to you.
Let's talk
Thanks,
soon.
Björn. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Ciao.